Om Kayena vacha manasyendrayirva Bhutyatmanava prakriti swabhava Karomi adyat sakalam paresma Narayana samarpayami Narayana samarpayami.
Dear Seeker of Truth, welcome. This is a very auspicious moment. We are going to talk about Bhakti. Bhakti, divine love. So we are going to talk about Bhakti as the essence of all spiritual paths, as the soul of all spiritual paths, and also as a path in itself, Bhakti Yoga. So this is a work made by sage Shandilya, the Shandilya Bhakti Sutras. Not much is known about this Shandilya, only that he was a sage, a God-realized being that gone through many other philosophies and finally got to the nectar-like Bhakti as the soul of it all. So Sage Shandilya had a very intellectual approach also. He was concerned about getting from the different authorities, the different scriptures, the validity, the importance of Bhakti as a spiritual path. So he gathered that all and shared it. So may you all find divine love in your hearts. May you all be blessed by this auspiciousness. May you all find God. So first of all, I would like to pay my respects, my gratitude in the name of all to India, because India deserves this gratitude, this recognition from all, because it has preserved countless treasures of spiritual teachings, preserved through the ages. And in this age of darkness, where these spiritual teachings get corrupted, India keeps a great, unfathomable variety of spiritual teachings, of purity, of nectar. So they deserve our gratitude. And this is a work, Shandilya Bhakti Sutras, one of those examples, between many countless ones. So let's start the Shandilya Bhakti Sutras. First, always with a prayer. They all start with a prayer. Victorious is the Supreme Lord. Great is the marvel of the nectar of the 2 feet of Govinda. Those who drink it do not get deluded, whereas those who do not get deluded. So Govinda is another name for God, and those who drink that which comes from God, these nectar-like teachings, they don't get deluded, they transcend illusion. Those who do not drink, they get deluded and remain stuck in the wheel of samsara. First sutra. Now we shall inquire about Bhakti. So this first sutra starts like this, and from the way it starts, Sage Shandilya is of the belief that no preconditions are needed to start the Bhakti path. And he was also a learned sage of other philosophies, have been expounding them, and now, after moving out from all of that, he comes to Bhakti through his own realization. So for Shandilya, there is no subsequence to any preliminary study of the Vedas, since it will be declared later that even beings of degraded births are competent to practice devotion. Example, elephant Gajendra. So this was a king that was cursed, downgraded to a life of an elephant, but then got liberation from Vishnu himself. So he is bringing the examples that bhakti is the supreme path to God. And let us not go into, because these discussions were frequent, which is the best path, karma yoga, jnana yoga, or bhakti yoga. But it's not about that. They are all together, but bhakti is the soul of them all. The soul. So Shandilya, like I said previously, doesn't believe absolutely that there's any preconditions for bhakti. Differently from other paths, no preconditions are needed. Everyone is entitled to bhakti, to the path of divine love. Not even tranquility needed to be acquired, as in the case of jnana yoga. The desire for liberation alone is enough to qualify one into the path of bhakti. So he says that only the desire for liberation. So this is a very great start, because only the desire of liberation is needed for the path of devotion. So there is no other preconditions, only the desire for liberation. But this clearly marks the path of bhakti, of loving God as for the purpose of liberation, of God realization, and nothing else. So this is also, it makes clear, even if it's making another point, that okay, you don't need any other subsequent qualifications, not even tranquility of mind. You only need the desire for liberation. And without this desire for liberation, there's not much also. Well, there can be a loving relationship with God, but it doesn't bring close to God, because God is seen as the one who fulfills desires, worldly desires. And the ultimate purpose of this relationship with God is to serve God, to become one with God, to dissolve in divine love. So let's go to other points. Now he's going to give examples. So to him who at the beginning created Brahma, who is the creator of the universe, and who gave the Vedas to him, to Brahma, to him the God who reveals the knowledge of himself, do I, desires of liberation, fly for refuge. So this is a passage, and it is clearly stating that to the God, to the highest God, to the one and only God, I surrender myself, the one that created Brahma, gave him the knowledge, I surrender myself and seek refuge into him. Now I bestow upon you, Brahma, the ontology of devotion, because it is by my grace alone the supramundane characterized bhakti is known. So again, he is giving another passage of the scriptures that clearly shows that no precondition is needed, because even Brahma received it from the Supreme Being. So the Supreme Being, which is called Vishnu, Narayana, is known by that name in some cultures. and by different in other cultures. So this Supreme Being gave this knowledge to Brahma, the creator. He gave it to him. And he says that it is by my grace alone that the supramundane characterized bhakti is known. Supramundane bhakti is known, the pure bhakti. It is by the grace of God alone. And whatever comes by grace, it's not about any faculties or capabilities developed. But we will go into that. Continuing, bhakti is cognized as the faculty of the jiva soul by the Lord's Swarupa Shakti, the Lord's form or potency. Out of her innate faculty, whereby the limited faculty of the jiva atma functions fully and wholly in reciprocity to Godhead. So bhakti is the faculty of the soul. So the nature of the soul is bhakti, is divine love. So, and this soul works directly in communion with God, in this reciprocity. So therefore, bhakti is supralogical, is beyond the mind, does not depend on any result or meritorious or virtuous works, Vedic rituals, nor is it to be inquired like preconditional acquisition of some disposition, as in the case of inquiring after Brahman in Vedanta. So this bhakti, now we are talking about pure bhakti. Pure bhakti. So this pure bhakti doesn't depend on any meritorious works, good deeds, whatever. This is not saying that they have to be excluded or they are irrelevant. They are relevant as tools for purification, which is needed. Without purity, there's no real bhakti. So, but these things are not for bhakti itself, because it is beyond the mind, it is by grace alone. So all these deeds, these meritorious deeds, they are about self-purification. Nor is it to be acquired like preconditional acquisition of some disposition, as in the case of inquiring after Brahma in Vedanta. So all those qualifications from Vedanta, they are not needed to start. It is the nature of the soul. While other topics are related to the mind, bhakti is directly related to the heart, where the soul resides. So we have seen previously that the nature of the soul is divine love. So the instrument of bhakti is the heart, is the faculty of loving, and this is beyond the mind. And it's related to the heart, where the soul resides. So the soul, the speck of God, the droplet of Godhood, resides in the heart. Bhakti is also very dear to the Lord. It is the very purpose of creation. This is very important. Many times I hear this question, what is the purpose of all of this? And the majority of times I cannot give the answer because there's no one to get the answer, to receive it. But the purpose of creation is bhakti, is the divine loving relationship between Jiva, the incarnated soul, and Godhead, the primordial being. So this is the purpose of all of this. And all the rest that takes your eyes out of this direction, out of the direction of God, out of that loving relationship with God, is just a distraction. It is much more than that, but moving on. Like parents and their children get an opportunity to love one another, being in touch with bhakti is like being in direct touch with the Lord Himself. Because bhakti speaks about the relationship of the jiva, the incarnated soul, with God. It's only about that relationship, that loving relationship. Since the Lord is the embodiment of eternal bliss and beatitude, and since bhakti is directly connected to the Lord, then those who adopt bhakti as a means to reach God have access to a picture of endless spiritual peace, joy, and bliss. What would you expect if you are exercising, pardon the term, love? If you are churning love, so love will flow all around. So it is a very sweet path compared to others. And compared to others because in other paths there's this difficulty sometimes in seeing that divine love is the purpose of them also. So it makes it more dry. But we will go to this into more detail. Let's move on. Still, as bhakti is practiced, the changes which are called preconditions in other paths must become visible for love to be able to grow. So, in the absence of that pure bhakti, there is the practice of bhakti, the practice of that loving God, through different means that we will go into it. And they will be purificatory, purifying in nature, because for you to be able to present yourself before God, or for you to see those that Shuddha Prem, that pure love, purity has to be there. So sage Shandilya dealt with all branches of the Vedas, was a repository of secular knowledge and spiritual wisdom. They are different. Many know about many passages of the scriptures and have no insight, no realization of them. But he had both. And after going through all, he turned to the doctrine of bhakti, where he found what he was looking for in the Pancharatas. Pancharatas, a treatise of bhakti. So having gone through all, more or less it's like describing the journey of some seekers, not all, but some, that starts with karma yoga, with yoga, that all fits into the category of jnana yoga, and there's no divine love, or very little, and they don't understand through their practices that is the essence, the purpose of them all. But with time and with practice, they purify themselves, and then love starts flowing, devotion starts flowing. So apparently sage Shandilya made the same journey, went through them all, and then finally got to the doctrine of bhakti, where he found what he was looking for. To attain the goal of life, which is to attain eternal internal peace for the soul, as well as final liberation from the cycle of transmigration. So what it's saying here is to establish oneself into God, to find this internal, eternal peace, which is God realization, and also to release oneself from the cycle of transmigration, of births and rebirths. So this is the purpose, meaning it has to go till the end, devote all to God, be immersed completely into God, because that's the only way to achieve them both. A strong devotion doesn't mean liberation from transmigration. This objective can be fulfilled only by attaining God realization. Yes. Being able to establish oneness between the individual and the Supreme Lord, to merge one's own self, known as pure consciousness, with the Supreme Self, known as Brahm, Ishvara, who is consciousness personified. So here we will listen to this word Brahm. Don't make confusion with Brahman, because it is another word for God, for the Supreme Being. And here we see that he is using different terms. Supreme Self from Vedanta. So, establishing oneness between the individual and the Supreme Lord, to merge oneself, known as pure consciousness, with the Supreme Self. Nothing else is there to be done. So this is the purpose of life. And this is a journey of divine love, of fulfillment in all aspects, but impurities have to be left aside. The higher goal is to experience this unbroken God communion, and compared to this, nothing else matters. And this is the truth. So, this is the ultimate goal of life, its ultimate purpose. Everything else is a journey, a slow journey to this end. And it is slow because it is not understood. And by the impurities, the level of impurities, the more impurities there are, the more distant you are from God, from that pure bhakti, Shuddha Prem, God realization. Okay.
Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva, tvameva bandhushka sakha tvameva, tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva, tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva.